Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Hey guys, Dan Snow, British World War II rations. Let's go. Let's learn. My name's Connor. That's what I like to do here, is learn things and watch stuff. The original link to the video, top of the description. Below that, link to the Discord. Let's go. First video of the day.
It's like a very, very cheap, very disgusting sausage. It's just absolutely disgusting. You would have to be desperate to eat one of these.
It could, maybe if you like grilled it or something, it'd look a bit more appetizing. The pig feet.
Snow, and I've come to a wartime kitchen to find out what an ordinary British family would have eaten during Second World War rationing. The UK had too many people and not enough food. Britain had been a big importer of food before the Second World War. And as war broke out, the British government became scared that German submarines would sink all those ships carrying food to Britain, the British people would starve, and Britain would have to surrender. So, on the 8th of January 1940, rationing was brought in. Rationing just means that people are allocated a very particular amount of food each. It's very, very efficient. Everyone got one of these ration books and had to register at their local shops. Then shopkeepers were supplied with just the right amount of food for everyone registered on their books. Ration books had a sort of coupon system, so people could only purchase what they were allotted and no more. A weekly ration was an egg, 2 ounces of butter, 2 ounces of tea, an ounce of cheese, 8 ounces of sugar, 4 ounces of bacon, and 4 ounces of margarine. Meat wasn't immediately rationed.
1 egg.
When it was done on price, meaning cheaper cuts quickly became very popular. Also, if you were the royal family, aristocrats, or Winston Churchill, and you had a country estate, you could have food brought into your London residence. So whilst the royal family and Winston Churchill made a big show of having a ration book, they were eating pretty well. And luckily for Winston Churchill, booze wasn't rationed. Spam. Now, spam actually wasn't on the ration. It was an American salted, tinned, processed pork that was very, very popular. Tinning was a kind of wonder technology. It meant that food could be kept good to eat for between 1 and 5 years. So spam was issued to a lot of soldiers in the field. And the Americans used it to curry favour with people back here in the UK. Let's give it a try.
You just eat it raw. Whoa.
It's like a very, very cheap, very disgusting sausage. But frankly, in a world where meat is rationed, this stuff would have tasted pretty good. Bread and powdered eggs. What a treat. Right. There was actually a ban on white bread during the Second World War. Something called the National Loaf was brought in. Bakers got together and worked out how to use wholemeal flour to produce a standardised loaf. So here you go, nice brown loaf. All right, I'm going to have some powdered eggs. Eggs were rationed, so by July 1942, powdered eggs became available. Thank you to the good old USA. What you do is you dry out an egg, and then you smash it to bits. Then you keep it, and it will last for years and years. The allowance was 1 tin of dried eggs every 2 months. Now, 1 tin was about the same as 12 fresh eggs.
I'm assuming that it's a cooked egg, or did they just dry a raw egg? I mean, since maybe the drying process would kill any.
So 12 fresh eggs every 2 months. I'm going to go crazy and have it all in one go. You had to add water to this egg mixture to turn it back into something approaching egg. It was 1 tablespoon of dried egg, 2 tablespoons of water. If you live near the countryside and live next to some hens, lucky you, you give up your egg ration and exchange it for other foods. Doesn't taste that much like eggs, to be honest. So tasteless. The Ministry of Food was desperate to get people cooking with dried eggs. Dried eggs, they insisted, were just as good as fresh eggs and should be used in the same way. They're very useful for main dishes. That's propaganda, that is. Aha, butter, my favourite, bit of bread and butter. But of course, this isn't butter. There's a war on. Hitler doesn't let you have nice things. This is dripping. It's the rendered fat that drops off a piece of beef. Now, I think my dad must have Stockholm Syndrome because he still talks about the dripping he remembers from his childhood with great affection. Let's see what it's like.
Maybe it's good.
It's disgusting. It tastes like rendered fat that's dropped off a piece of beef. Now, when it's hot, as you'll know from your baking tray, it's like a clear liquid. But at room temperature, it congeals, it solidifies. It tastes like a bit of plasticky plasticine. It is disgusting. I don't know what my dad's on about. It was a very versatile food or substance. I suspect you could probably use it to grease the axles on your truck, but people loved eating it in a bread and dripping form. A piece of bread, dripping on the top, a little bit of salt and pepper. Why not? Treat yourself. Okay, here goes.
Come on, Dan.
Meat was heavily rationed. You were allowed 4 ounces of bacon a week, and other meat was available at a price. That meant people started turning to alternative forms of meat, meat that in peacetime you would overlook as unsuitable for human consumption, and that included pig's trotters, hooves, things like that, but also whale meat. Whale meat was an unrationed alternative to meat. It was sold as whack-on, corned whale meat with its fishy flavour removed. Can't wait to try that. Let's get into these pig trotters. Oh, goodness.
You're a trooper, Dan.
I mean, it's just absolutely disgusting. You would have to be desperate to eat one of these. There still seems to be mud from the farmyard caught in this trotter here.
I feel like maybe if you like cleaned the edible bits, like picked the edible bits off of it and then kind of grilled or sauteed it a bit, maybe it would be okay.
I'm not sure about this. Right, I'm done with those. One thing that was readily available during those wartime years was vegetables.
Apricot.
You'll be glad to hear. These were not rationed. They became a mainstay during the war. People were expected and encouraged to grow vegetables wherever they could. The expression "dig for victory" was a popular catchphrase. There was a huge rise in the number of allotments all over the UK. This is a fake apricot flan. It's in fact made from carrot. I mean, carrots grew like weeds.
I thought he said
in the UK.
cats for a second.
From carrot. I mean, carrots grew like weeds in the UK. I've got carrots everywhere. Turnips, there's plenty of those. So this mock apricot flan was cleverly designed to fool you into eating it when it was, in fact, carrots smeared with jam. It fooled me. In 1941, the Minister for Food, Lord Walton, issued this clarion call for self-sustainability. He said, "This is a food war. Every extra row of vegetables in these allotments saves shipping. The battle on the kitchen front cannot be won without help from the kitchen garden." Isn't an hour in the garden better than an hour in the queue?
You guys ever, maybe you haven't gone shopping for a while, but you're really hungry, and all of a sudden, or suddenly, those, that week-old cereal looks kind of tasty. Or I feel like when you know that you have options, it's much harder to eat things. But when you're hungry and it's all there is, I think you start to maybe crave it, like his what is it? His dad or grandfather that liked the butter, the beef drippings. So you ever notice that? I think it's kind of fascinating when there isn't other options. Suddenly, stuff you didn't find appetizing, it starts to look pretty good. Am I right there?
So
Am I?
Everyone was encouraged to start victory gardens. Dig up any patch of earth near your house and plant
Mr.
vegetables.
Spud and Carrot?
And to use substitutes. Good old turnips, carrots, get them in the food. In the absence of sugar, which is very heavily rationed, carrots were added to desserts like this to sweeten them. And they had the added benefit, according to the government,
Eyesight.
in that they helped you see better in the dark and would protect you from bombs and during blackouts. But that's just because the government wanted people to fill their bellies with carrots. They wouldn't eat anything else. I tell my daughter that she eats the crusts on her toast, it'll make her hair curly. It's not true. And just in case you thought cartoon characters pushing annoying public information campaigns anything new, they had Dr. Carrot and Potato Pete during the Second World War. Cartoon characters to get people to eat more vegetables as they were plentiful and cheap.
It's fascinating. Great video. It's fascinating, again, how governments interact with other governments. Sorry, I meant to say that it's fascinating how countries interact with each other very much like people interact with people. I've said this a few times now, but it's really, it stood out to me. And it's also funny how, especially in wartime, okay, that governments treat their citizens kind of like parents treat their children. And it all makes sense, right? And I'm not saying it's a one-for-one comparison here. But I always found that fascinating. If any of you have ever tried any of this stuff or have any comments at all, I'd really appreciate what you have to say. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys. Bye, Dan.